So in today's video, I'm going to discuss a very important topic, and that is how to choose your PhD supervisor. And I would say that this is probably one of the most important decisions you need to make in life. And I see that very often people make this decision rather superficially, and the result is that they are stuck with a PhD supervisor who is not suitable for them, and also there is a personality mismatch with this person, and then they later regret their decision of doing a PhD with this person. So again, let us look at this in a very dispassionate and scientific manner. Now, when we look for graduate students, we look at a few things in them, and let us summarize some of those things. The first thing is good scores and good CGPA in their bachelor's or master's degree program. Then you need to have good test scores or standardized test scores. Then you need to have good letters of recommendation and also a good statement of purpose in some cases. Now, of course, you cannot go to a professor and ask him to show all these records to you, but there is a particular metric through which you can figure out if this person was good in an academic sense. And this is to look at the university from which this person has obtained his PhD. So that's the first thing. Now, this university name and its reputation is going to summarize to you in one phrase as to what is the level of this person. Because at a higher ranked university, it is not only difficult to get admission, but it's also difficult to clear the qualifying or comprehensive examination, and also to graduate from such a university, because the professors of such universities tend to be very draconian and are not wanting to give you a PhD degree without considerable level of work and a good academic record. Now, the second issue you can look at is what is the cytometric of this person. So again, there are some people who may not get into the top university straight away in their life, and these may be the late bloomers. But what happens is later in life, they may flourish substantially, and this will be revealed in their list of publications, their Google Scholar profile, such as their number of citations, their H index, their I-10 index, and so on. So again, you can look at these to see how well they have done in their profession. Now, regarding the statement of purpose, of course, you cannot ask a professor for his statement of purpose, but you can see from his web page as well as from his social media profile as to what is his general belief in terms of research, the direction of research, as well as the type of research which he does. One more thing which can reveal this to you is to peruse the titles of his various publications and the PhD thesis and the funding for the proposals he has received in his lab, and these titles will basically tell you what is his predilection in terms of research. You also need to look at the type of lab which this person runs. So there are some professors who have papers which are written by several people, and these are essentially labs where there may be several postdocs, research scientists working with a PhD student. And then there are some professors who have papers written just with their student or with one more person. And this is a different type of a lab. So you need to decide beforehand which is the type of lab you want to get into, and by perusing the list of publications in terms of who are the people who have written the papers and what is the location of the student with respect to the supervisor and the various postdocs and research scientists in this list, will give you a good feedback about what is the type of person you are going to work for. The next thing to look at is the exposure of this person in terms of worldwide scientific situation. So again, you want to find somebody who has traveled in different countries, hopefully has done a PhD, a postdoctoral work, or has obtained fellowships in different countries and so on. Now, what this helps people to do is to develop a network. And this network is extremely important in modern day science, because research is typically a worldwide collaboration. And the fact that you have a network around the world will help you not only in getting your papers published with lesser amount of difficulty, but also in soliciting various postdoctoral positions or such positions later in your career. Now, the next issue is conference exposure. So, I would say that you want to go for people who present their work in conferences. And while this is important for a growth of a person, it's not so important in terms of academic promotions. So, there are some people who only publish in journals, and then these people may encourage you to only publish in journals. But the problem with this approach is that you do not grow as a person, you do not develop a network, and you also do not learn various presentation skills which are very important for a PhD student. Now, the soft part of a person cannot be obtained from his Google Scholar profile or from looking at his CV. I think you need to go and communicate with his current students, former students, and see where the former students are placed in terms of different universities, industries, and so on. You also need to look at how this person helps his students. Is he somebody who actually goes out of his way to place his students in postdoctoral positions and write reference letters for them? Or is this a person who is very reticent when it comes to performing such duties for his students? So there are again such people whom you need to be careful of. Now, the next thing to look at is what is the track record of this person in terms of graduating PhD students and how long each of these students takes to graduate. So this is something to keep in mind because there are some people who graduate their students in 4 to 5 years and some people who take 7 to 10 years to graduate their student. So again, you do not want to become a permanent student in some of these labs which are very slow in terms of graduating their students. Now, finally, I would say that you need to watch out for toxicity in the people with whom you are working for. So it is very much the case that most PhD graduates and certainly people who have joined universities and become professors are eccentric, but they should not be toxic. So there is a line between eccentricity and toxicity, and you should watch out for toxic people. So I will give you some example of toxic behavior which can really mess up your life as a graduate student. So maybe your supervisor is somewhat of a Martinite or a strict disciplinarian. Now these are people who may want you to have meetings each day of the week at 9 a.m. and this may not gel very well with you if you are a person who works later during the day. There may be people who micromanage your research and you may not like to do this so much. Then there are people who are extremely hands-off in terms of their way of guiding, and this may also not be good for many people because they may want more regular feedback in terms of their PhD supervisor. So again, some of these information you can garner out of the various PhD students in the lab and ex-PhD students, and sometimes it is possible to contact these people through WhatsApp or through different social media platforms and have a chat with them about these particular topics. Now let us go to the dark side of the force here, which is that there are some professors who may be bordering on behavior which is not moral and not correct, and you need to be very careful about that. Now this could be in terms of the research they do, the type of research they do, the methods they use in terms of research, their belief in terms of plagiarism and such problems, and in terms of scientific correctness. So you need to be very careful about these type of people. One more possibility is you may have a licentious person, and this person may create problems for his students because this is a position where a person has a great amount of power, and you do not want to be in a situation where you have such a person who is your PhD supervisor. So again, need to watch out for such people. Then finally, there are some people who may have very fundamentalist views in terms of religion or politics, and you need to watch out for such people also because they tend to carry these views from their personal life into their work life, and this may be in a subtle way, but you may feel very uncomfortable in a lab if you do not subscribe to some of the views which are held by the professor and many of his students. So you need to watch out for these also. So again, these were some points I had in mind about how to select a PhD supervisor. And remember that the PhD supervisor is probably going to be the most important person you will encounter in your life. And in fact, this person may be even more important than your parents or your prospective marriage partner, because this person will have disproportionate power on you and will influence your thought process and your growth as a scholar, and this particular imprint is left on you for a very long time to come. Now, it's also true that the difference between a bachelor's degree student and a master's degree student and a PhD student is that the PhD student largely learns the art of research by emulating the professor, and therefore this professor's entire personality tends to rub off on the student. And this includes the good aspects of the personality as well as the bad aspects of the personality. And it is extremely difficult for human beings to really discard the bad aspects of the personality also. And that is one of the reasons why the toxicity of the work culture continues in many research domains. So you need to be careful about that, but you also do not want to shy away from these realities, because you want to become a researcher, but in each generation you want to decrease the level of toxicity and condescending behavior which is often displayed by senior faculty. And this is part of your job to make sure that you inculcate in yourself the positive aspects of your professor and try to discard the negative aspects. So again, these were some ideas I had for you today on how to choose a PhD supervisor, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks again for listening to me, and stay tuned to my channel. Thank you very much.